What if one of the most recognizable comedy figures in film history spent most of his life being cast as the opposite of a comedian? For decades, Leslie Nielsen worked steadily as a dramatic actor, appearing in television anthologies, westerns, crime dramas, and science fiction films throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. He was trusted to play authority, military officers, doctors, investigators, men who stayed calm under pressure. Nielsen was trained in classical acting, valuing control, sincerity, and realism over exaggeration. And for years, that's exactly how audiences saw him. Serious, composed, dependable. Then in 1980, a small parody film called Airplane cast him against type. Not a change in performance style, but to keep it exactly the same. What followed wasn't just a career shift. It was a reinvention that helped redefine modern screen comedy, proving that sometimes the straightest performance can produce the biggest laughs. This is the story of Leslie Nielsen, and how doing everything seriously made him unforgettable. Welcome to Cinema Uncovered. Before audiences ever laughed at Leslie Nielsen, Hollywood trusted him with something very specific: credibility. Born in 1926 in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, Nielsen grew up far from the film industry. After serving in the Royal Canadian Air Force, he pursued acting seriously, studying at the Neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater in New York, where realism, discipline, and restraint were emphasized over showmanship. These lessons would define his entire approach to performance. By the early 1950s, Nielsen became part of television's first golden age. He appeared in live anthology dramas such as Studio One, Playhouse 90, and Suspense, often performing demanding roles with no margin for error. Mistakes couldn't be edited out. Everything happened in real time. Hollywood quickly recognized his strengths. Nielsen was cast repeatedly as men of authority: doctors, military officers, lawmen, and professionals who needed to project calm and control. He wasn't a leading man in the traditional sense, but he was dependable and constantly working. In 1956, that dependability led to one of his most important early roles: Commander John J. Adams in Forbidden Planet. The film would later become a cornerstone of science fiction cinema, but at the time, Nielsen approached it like any other dramatic role: grounded, sincere, and serious. Unintentionally, he was building the exact skill set that would later transform comedy. At this stage of his career, however, there was no hint of parody, no indication that reinvention was coming. Leslie Nielsen was simply doing what he had always done, playing it straight. By the mid-1950s, science fiction was still considered a niche genre, often low-budget, sensational, and rarely taken seriously by major studios. That changed in 1956 with Forbidden Planet. Produced by MGM, the film was ambitious for its time, featuring expensive sets, advanced special effects, and an entirely electronic musical score, something unheard of in Hollywood then. Leslie Nielsen was cast as Commander John J. Adams, the disciplined leader of a space expedition sent to investigate the mysterious fate of a distant colony. Nielsen played the role with restraint and authority, grounding the film's futuristic concepts in believable human behavior. His performance wasn't flashy, but it was essential. In a genre often dominated by exaggeration, he treated the story as real. Over time, Forbidden Planet became one of the most influential science fiction films ever made. Its themes of technology, psychology, and the dangers of unchecked power would echo decades later in films like Star Wars and television series like Star Trek. The character of Robbie the Robot became a cultural icon, while the film itself proved that science fiction could be intelligent, serious, and cinematic. For Leslie Nielsen, however, Forbidden Planet did not change the direction of his career. Despite its legacy, Hollywood continued to cast him in similar dramatic and authoritative roles, in westerns, crime films, disaster movies, and television series. There was no sense that Nielsen would one day redefine comedy. If anything, Forbidden Planet reinforced his reputation as a reliable dramatic actor. Yet, in hindsight, the film captured something important: a performance style rooted in sincerity, discipline, and control, traits that would later make his comedy work, without ever breaking character. After Forbidden Planet, Leslie Nielsen didn't become a star overnight. Instead, he became something else: one of the most consistently employed actors in Hollywood. From the late 1950s through the 1970s, Nielsen worked relentlessly. He appeared in westerns, war films, crime stories, thrillers, and especially television, which was rapidly becoming the dominant entertainment medium. Nielsen was a familiar face on shows like The Fugitive, The Virginian, Hawaii Five-O Mission, Impossible, and Columbo. Often, he played professionals, doctors, officials, or authority figures, sometimes heroes, sometimes antagonists. These roles rarely made him famous, but they made him trusted. Directors knew Nielsen would show up prepared, hit his marks, and deliver dialogue with clarity and conviction. In an industry built on reliability, that reputation kept him working for decades. By the 1970s, however, Hollywood was changing. The studio system was fading, new stars were emerging, and roles for traditional leading men were shrinking. For many actors, this period marked a quiet decline. For Leslie Nielsen, it set the stage for something unexpected. After nearly 30 years of dramatic work, his career seemed stable, but creatively fixed. There was no indication that comedy, let alone parody, would become his defining legacy. Then, in 1980, a casting decision would transform everything. By the late 1970s, the parody genre was still finding its identity. Comedies often relied on broad performances, exaggerated reactions, and recognizable comedians delivering obvious punchlines. When filmmakers Jim Abrahams and brothers David and Jerry Zucker began developing Airplane, they took a different approach. Their rule was simple: cast serious actors, not comedians. They believed the comedy would work best if the performers treated the absurd situations as completely real. Leslie Nielsen was not the obvious choice. At the time, he was best known for dramatic roles and had never been associated with comedy. But that was exactly why he was cast. In Airplane, 1980, Nielsen played Dr. Rumack, a no-nonsense physician caught in an increasingly ridiculous crisis. He delivered every line with total sincerity, never signaling to the audience that a joke was coming. The result was unexpected and immediate. Lines like, "I am serious and don't call me Shirley," became instantly iconic, not because of how they were performed, but because they weren't performed for laughs at all. Airplane was both a critical and commercial success, and audiences quickly realized something important. Leslie Nielsen's seriousness was a joke. At the age of 54, Nielsen had unintentionally unlocked an entirely new phase of his career. What began as a single supporting role would soon redefine how parody comedy was performed on screen. The success of Airplane proved that Leslie Nielsen could be funny, but it didn't yet make him a comedy star. That changed in 1988 with A Naked Gun. From the files of Police Squad, the character of Frank Drebin was not new. He had first appeared in the short-lived television series Police Squad in 1982, created by the same filmmakers behind Airplane. Although the show was critically praised, it was canceled after only 6 episodes, largely because its visual humor required viewers to pay close attention, something network television struggled with at the time. When the concept was revived as a feature film, Leslie Nielsen became the center of the comedy. As Frank Drebin, Nielsen played a police detective who was confident, well-meaning, and completely oblivious to the chaos he caused. Crucially, Drebin never acknowledged the absurdity around him. Nielsen's performance followed a strict rule: no exaggeration, no irony, no self-awareness. Every action, no matter how ridiculous, was treated with absolute seriousness. This approach made Drebin unforgettable. The Naked Gun was a major box office success and launched 2 sequels, cementing Nielsen's reputation as the face of modern parody comedy. By refusing to play funny, Leslie Nielsen had perfected a style of humor that relied entirely on contrast. Comedy didn't come from performance. It came from the world collapsing around it. And with Frank Drebin, Leslie Nielsen became more than a reinvention. He became a blueprint. Leslie Nielsen's comedy was effective not because he broke the rules, but because he followed them. He approached every role, no matter how absurd, with the same discipline he had learned as a dramatic actor. There was no exaggeration, no mugging for the camera, and no attempt to signal where the joke was. This technique is known as deadpan comedy, but Nielsen's version was unusually strict. He didn't underplay scenes to appear clever. He played them as real. In films like A Naked Gun, the humor came from contrast. A completely sincere performance placed inside an increasingly ridiculous world. Frank Drebin response was what changed. In the end, his legacy wasn't built on jokes, but on consistency, and that consistency made him timeless. Leslie Nielsen's career is proof that success in cinema isn't always about reinvention through change. Sometimes it's about committing fully to who you already are. By taking his work seriously, even when the world around him was absurd, he reshaped parody comedy and left behind performances that continue to influence film and television today. He didn't chase laughs. He earned them, and decades later, his timing, restraint, and sincerity remain as effective as ever. If you enjoyed this deep dive into film history, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments which actor, director, or film you'd like us to uncover next. This has been Cinema Uncovered. Thanks for watching.